Imagine preparing for your big monthly management meeting, but you're spending hours and even days sifting through scattered reports, outdated information, and siloed data. It's frustrating, right? That was the reality for Eldapoint, a client that we have in the manufacturing sector before they implemented HubSpot. At Axon Garside, we've seen this struggle for many, many years, which is why we're so passionate about helping businesses streamline their operations using HubSpot. Today, we're showcasing the story of Eldapoint. They came to us with the challenge of implementing HubSpot across multiple business units, bringing everyone up to speed and ensuring everyone's using the same software. Let's dive into their journey and see how this transformation has impacted their business. So, first of all, who are Eldapoint? The Eldapoint Group is a manufacturer of intelligent space solutions, including prefabricated buildings, container conversions, specialised enclosures, steel fabrication, and waste containers for a wide range of sectors. They've formed in the previous 12 months, having acquired 4 other companies. Our HubSpot implementation team worked with Jonathon Phillips, Group Commercial Director at Eldapoint, and Chris Coan, consultant to Eldapoint and founder of Insightful Analytix, on scoping this project.
The thought process was that we wanted to bring everyone up to the same level and using the same software to do that across the group. We had some of the businesses who were still very much handwritten quotes, from that sort of side to the guys using the CRM. So it was a very varied approach we were taking. The main problem was pulling the information from each of the individual companies, bringing that together for weekly reports to the board, to the shareholders, and it was taking a lot of time, a lot of management, and the information was presented differently in different formats. And now that we've got HubSpot installed, it's there. It's live data, it's a click of a button. The time saving and the quality of the data being recorded is, it's night and day to where we were. It's been absolutely fantastic.
The founder of Eclipse, Mark Asprey, then introduced me to the chief executive of Eldapoint, because they had significant gaps in their automation of data in the journey from outbound marketing right the way through, and let me call it a data supply chain, right the way through to net profitability and EBITDA. The chief executive decided to contract me in as a consultant to basically go around, work with the group board and then the OpCo boards to understand where the priority gaps in data were and where the quickest wins were for business automation. And it was identified that was marketing and sales within CRM. You then get down to the nitty gritty of what was the requirement. The requirement was everything from quality lead generation through its various mechanisms of technology today, from an inbound phone call through to pay-per-click and all the other elements of marketing lead gen, automating all of that capture into a marketing process, at which point we lead score and pass a quality lead forwards into the sales process. None of that process was defined, even in principle terms, never mind adopted, never mind then hard coded into a workflow in an engine. And then the second piece is actually getting the adoption of the sales from a qualified lead right the way through the journey to close win, close lost. Ultimately, the outplay, which is where it always needs to be, is the analysis of what all of that really looks like in terms of conversion rates, revenues, margins, contribution, and all of those elements of a sales outplay. And that was what was driving it, because sat at the front and the back end of this whole project was a chief executive who was sponsoring it and giving it governance. And that has to be where it starts and ends, because if it starts further down the organizational tier, then it has risk of failure because it doesn't have the right seniority and backing. Because it's not a CRM project, this is a business transformational project. It's all about business change. So that was the journey: marketing automation, sales process through to win-loss, and then reporting right the way through from field operative to chief executive. That's a requirement.
After understanding the scope and requirements of the project, our team got their heads together to come up with an action plan of how to implement HubSpot for Eldapoint.
Right, Becky,
What was the scope of the project with Eldapoint?
So the Eldapoint project scope was to take all the businesses that are part of the group and put them into a single HubSpot portal, meaning we needed to create a group model with best practices and a single way of working that we could then roll out to each business unit, which we did over a period of 6 months, focusing individually on each of the different implementations one at a time to get them into the group model. So we started with a strategy and roadmap document. So that's very much focusing on the discovery phase of the project. So we met with each of the business units independently, learn about their pain points, about the way they were currently working. So were they in another CRM system, or were they using spreadsheets, or in some cases were they just using emails and various other things to manage their data. We did an in-depth analysis of the current situation, and then based on that made recommendations of how HubSpot could be used to enhance that, give better reporting, clearer data and shareable data across the whole group. We delivered that, as I say, as a strategy and roadmap document with a very clearly defined plan, whole set of requirements, any integration work that we were going to do with websites and various other things, and a clear timeline. We then took that timeline and delivered as according to the milestones. So we started with a group project, looking right from the beginning of marketing and what assets they needed, what channels they were going to use, building that through to lead scoring and lead routing, and how the marketing to sales handover was going to work. We then moved into the sales pipeline and looking at not just the stages of the pipeline, but automations and clear information that needed to be captured at each stage. And then we looked at how the data would be shared across the group for upsell, cross-sell opportunities, all while making sure that data regulations were in place. So once we'd agreed that group portal and what the best practices were going to be, how the database was going to be structured and how we were going to deliver on all those things, we started with the marketing, and we implemented marketing across the group, starting with the group best practice and then moving from business unit to business unit one at a time in sequential order. Once the marketing team were live, we then moved on to sales and did a very similar kind of approach. So best practices across the group, and then one by one we brought in each business unit, discussing what was going to change, how things were going to use moving forward in the new model. A lot of people had not used CRM before, so that was quite an interesting journey for them. Delivering training at each stage of the journey, and then most recently we've moved on to ongoing development, and we've been doing a very similar kind of model from a reporting perspective, both so that the individual users have what they need, the team leaders at each operational company have what they need, and then at a group level they've got that group reporting.
The final one, how long did it take for us to implement this for Eldapoint?
So we did an initial strategy and roadmap project, as I mentioned, that was a 6-week discovery and documentation process of all the requirements. And then we did a 6-month implementation model. So group model with a subsequent 4 business units. So all in all, it was around a 7-month implementation from first point of contact to delivery.
The outcome? Well, let's see what Chris and Jonathon had to say about HubSpot and Action Garside themselves.
It used to take them, I would say, a minimum of 14 man weeks per month to generate a sales report at a group level that gave them at best 30% of what they wanted, and actually gave them more questions to problems than gave them answers to things that help drive positive business change. Whereas now, they've just had a quarterly board review. Johnny spends 15 minutes to half an hour producing a board pack, which you could never even envisage doing. So they're at least saving 14 man weeks a month just in labour. But what they're getting is, instead of 30% value out of the data, they're probably getting 90% value out of the data. So the automation saving is huge. The time to decision making, and I talk about time to value, you can't quantify it, to be quite frank with you. I speak to Johnny probably 3 times a week. I had a conversation with him a couple of weeks ago, and I said to him, so how would you feel, Johnny, now if we switched HubSpot off? And without anything, he just said, I'd resign. General managers, MDs, business unit managers, whatever you want to call them, and even the sales people are all driving their daily lives now off it.
A lot of positive feedback. Like I said, there's been a few tougher nuts to crack, shall we say, but everyone by the whole has been a very positive feedback. Becky and Tom came back and offered one-to-one training sessions with anyone that needed it, which was, again, absolutely fantastic. there's not been many issues really. I've been very impressed the whole way through, very professional, and yeah, can't complain really.
When we chose to select you, I was very confident, and you've over-delivered. You have over-delivered. I would aggressively, as in being hard on you, say you were a low 9 at worst. Because the reason this thing succeeds is not primarily because you're a HubSpot partner. The reason this succeeds in terms of Axe and Garside is because of Axe and Garside. And that goes down to the management and the staff.
Thank you for joining us on this journey with Eldapoint. Their success story is one of an example of how HubSpot can transform business operations, saving time and providing clear, up-to-date insights. If you're ready to streamline your own business operations, get in contact with the Axe and Garside team at axeandgarside.com/contact us. For more insights and tips, make sure to check out our 5 stages of a successful HubSpot implementation blog, where we run through our thorough process of how we, for our clients, implement HubSpot. Also, don't miss the full Eldapoint case study on our website to learn even more about this incredible transformation.